Hello again, everyone. Edwin Leonard back once again. In this YouTube astrological segment, I'm going to be dissertating and talking about the moon transiting the 11th house in a natal chart. Now, generally speaking, the moon, in most cases, is going to transit a house between 48 and 72 hours. So anyway, people, first thing I want to get at as far as this transit goes is that this may be a time where you may show more sensitivity to matters pertaining to friends, to acquaintances, to aspirations, to your goals. You might be more sensitive in these matters if somebody were to say, well, don't you have any aspirations, or say something maybe derisive to you in matters connected with goals or aspirations. You might react a little bit more strongly in this case. This might be a time where maybe your friends might come across maybe as a little bit more moody or vacillating and temperamental, or they may see you more this way. You might be more emotional with friends and acquaintances right now than you ordinarily are. This may be a period where you have a stronger emotional need for friendship. The friendships may figure more prominently in your life scheme right now as they do as opposed to ordinarily. This could be a period where you may feel a need to be a little bit more unorthodox and get out of the box, so to speak. You don't feel like feeling that you don't want to be confined necessarily to certain parameters. You might have a stronger reforming urge right now and be more progressive than usual. You might be attracted to things that are new, that are eclectic, that are just very different. This could be a period where you might have more interest in humanitarian endeavors than you ordinarily would. You might have a strong need to express selflessness at this time than usual. This could be a period where you might be, as far as friends, acquaintances go, you could be a little bit more sensitive to what one of them says. For example, something that might be constructive criticism. It's possible you may be more inclined to misconstrue something that could be constructive criticism or a joke, for example, as something that was more derogatory or offensive. And so it's important to be careful as far as that goes. And you might be more of a need to maybe connect with maybe some people. It could be friends that you haven't even seen for some time. For example, like old high school buddies or college buddies, or people that you grew up with in your childhood. This could be a period where the mother and or women in general may figure a little bit more prominently, perhaps in matters that are connected with your goals, that are connected with your aspirations. You may feel more of a need, perhaps, to join a group or join an organization. You might be a lot more group-minded in this period than usual. Even if your chart suggests a more introverted and reserved person, you might be someone right now that feels a little bit more need to be more extroverted, to get out with others and go places where a lot of people congregate. You may have a need maybe to join a club if you're not part of one right now, and even if you don't seek out any group or organization, or get involved with friends, this could be a time where you may be looking at yourself. Say if you're a person that doesn't have many friends, and it may feel like it might hit home a little bit more now than usual. The fact that maybe if you don't have many friends, you might feel more sensitive regarding this issue. So though, that's something to consider as far as the moon transiting the 11th house in your natal chart. This could be a period you might become more interested in things like social advocacy, for example, being people that are social advocates. There might be a little more of an interest in global awareness, things that impact a large group. Those are things that you might have a little bit more interest than you would ordinarily. It's certainly not a time about being egocentric or things connected with self-aggrandizement. It's more generally, this 48 to 72 hour period, well, at least generally speaking, that's in most cases the transit will last that long. You're really more about helping, doing things in groups and doing things for others as opposed for yourself in this particular time, because it could give very strong humanitarian and very selfless instincts during this period. And really, this could be this could be a time where you also may become a little bit more cognizant of your dreams and hopes right now and looking at the future. Well, anyway, people, it's also important to look at the sign that the moon is in for either whether it's the majority or the entire period that it transits your 11th house. This could flavor the influence. Now, let's say, for example, that the moon is in Aquarius for either the majority or the whole period it's transiting your 11th house. This could show perhaps it could even give us stronger emphasis on things that are humanitarian and emotional need for that. And perhaps it might be a time where you might be interested in some group. You might feel, for as far as emotional need goes, to be in some group that's connected with innovation, with new technology, even like something with computers or electronics, even something like a radio controlled remote, like one of those clubs where they have those remote control items, I should say, cars, for example, remote control objects, RC group, I think that's called, or something similar. So those are some things, or like an aeronautic group could be another example. So, and let's say there's another example. Let's say that the moon is in Sagittarius for either the majority or the whole period it's transiting your 11th house. This could give a lot of emotional exuberance, perhaps to maybe some goals or aspirations you might try to attain. It could be a club connected with philosophy, or maybe joining a congregation or some kind of religious group. So those are some things to consider as far as that being in Sagittarius is that example. Now, it's also important to look at the aspects that are made during the time of this moon's transit in the 11th house, as this could impact the transit as well. Now, let's say, for example, someone has, you have the transiting moon in the 11th house. It's making a square in conjunct or opposition to your natal sun. Well, this could indicate perhaps maybe a conflict as far as what you're craving, what you want, as far as an emotional need at that time, and maybe in conflict with that, and perhaps what your basic wants are as far as which is your sun sign. So that is one example. Now, another example, let's say that the transiting moon in the 11th house makes a sextile or trine to your natal Uranus in that period. Now, that could indicate maybe a positive time for doing something unique and doing something different that might be tied in perhaps to a goal or aspiration, making it maybe decision to do something maybe that could be unique, that could be different. You might have a very strong feeling about doing something that could be that could involve breaking monotony, and it could be somehow maybe tied in to that maybe that emotional need for a certain kind of group and organization or aspiration. Well, anyway, people, that'll conclude this YouTube astrological segment for the moon transiting the 11th house in a natal chart. And stay tuned next time, where I'll be dissertating and talking about the moon transiting the 12th house in a natal chart. Two things I want to get with you on before I head out. Firstly, the stars may impel but do not compel. And secondly, never isolate any single astrological element, aspect, planetary placement, position, configuration, influence, or what have you, and make an analysis of a person, astrologically speaking, based on this alone. Because astrologically speaking, the person is the sum of all their components in their natal chart, and not just one. Until next time, people, stay well.